Hi, going forward, I'm going to repost a YouTube video that I've not reposted before and has had a lot of views, meaning I hope it will probably be helpful to many of you. This month's is a long one, a 20-minute painting demonstration, but it's had over 100,000 views. And it's of this image, which I showed you last month. I think of this as 4 shapes: sky, trees, bush, and grasses. And that's what I mean about simplification. Nuanced a bit, you get this, with this structure. Note the vertical through the grasses, and you'll see as I paint this how I'm simplifying and grouping those flowers, not just making a bunch of white polka dots. But recognize the painting, which you'll see in the demo, is about the nuancing of those 4 main simple shapes. That's what makes the painting work, not a bunch of added details. So here's the demo. This is Ian Roberts and Mastering Composition. So we're going to start with the palette, and in most cases I'm going to show you the palette and then be painting. So this is chrome oxide green, cad yellow light, some white, some yellow ochre, and some turpentine, because you'll see that I'm mixing red and orange with it because I'm trying to knock the green back, and some yellow ochre. And so now it's quite a thin mixture, and you'll see it's a 10 by 12 panel, and I'm just scrubbing it in thin. The big mass of grasses. And the paint's quite thin, and you'll see that if I don't show you like here, I don't think I show you the palette again because I just used exactly the same color, didn't change it, and that'll be common all the way through. Now I'm going a little darker because I want to gradate the bottom part as it moves. See, there's some a little bit of phthalo green, a little bit of ultramarine, but it's a little darker. And so I'm just getting it darker, and then I'll just keep doing that, getting it a little darker as it goes down. So it sort of gradates up. But I'm doing this vertical motion because these are all tall grasses, right? So now there's even more ultramarine going in, and it's just getting darker still. But it's still pretty thin. I mean, it's still got a lot of some turpentine in it. I mean, normally I don't use turpentine, but just to put in this thin underpainting here. And you'll see all the way through, I'm just painting it vertically and just giving that impression, which will be the underlying foundation for the flowers that'll go on top of it, of building up this sense of, tall grasses there. And you see, I just keep breaking up the edges so that there's no hard edges. Sometimes I'll go in there with a little bit more paint, and then you just see it's just kind of these vertical motions, holding the brush very lightly, just kind of flicking it away. So this cobalt blue and white is going to start the sky. And now there's no turpentine. Now we're just looking at straight paint. And you'll see that once I sort of get a line along the top, then I start bringing it down. And again, you're not seeing the palette because it's the same color. But now I've got a little bit more white with it. And you'll see that I'm sort of moving the brush in different angles. It's not just sort of whitewashing it. It's like different angles. And I'm painting over the drawing of the trees. You'll see when I start painting the trees, I'm having to sort of figure them out again because most of those pencil lines are gone by the time I finish blocking this in. But you're seeing there's a variety of strokes there that are sort of giving us the sense of and then here giving us a sense of the sky coming down. And here I've got some phthalo green because as the sky comes down, it starts to shift. Just like at sunset, comes all the way to orange. But even on a normal day, it's starting to shift color. And so by just getting a little bit of phthalo green, we just get a touch of, obviously not very much, but we just get a touch of that shift. And the rest of this is pretty much what's going to be left for the bush on the left and the big trees on the right. But as I say, I've painted over a good part of the drawing of those. I have to go back in and find them. And then I've got a little bit of cad yellow light added to that last mixture, just to sort of, as we come down to the horizon, just shift it a little further. So here I've got Phthalo Green, Alizarin, Chrome Oxide Green, and Yellow Ochre, and this is in a little bit of orange. And this is for the dark tree. So there I tested the color, and then I come back in with the same color. And you'll see here, I'm really taking my time because the drawing is mainly gone. I'm looking at the photograph, which is just off to my left shoulder on my computer. And I'm just figuring out, and that paint up there, and the blue paint is quite thick. And you can see I'm just trying to figure out the shape and the best way to paint it and flick that paint up into the blue and leave it, right? Just, you can see it just sort of smears up there as the finished branch, as opposed to sort of over painting and then getting the blue back into it and then the black. I've just tried to get it right the first time, which means paying more attention before you put the brush mark on than after. So you can just see that those marks just kind of start to approximate what I want the trees to look like. And I'm just building it up. And I'm putting new paint. You're not seeing me go back and pick up more paint, but I almost 2-3 marks and I'm going to get more paint. See, I've just come back with more paint. There, coming back with more paint. But so far it's all just this, I mean, pretty much the whole thing. I think at some point, I don't think I have it here for you to see exactly, but I think at one point I get a little bit more yellow ochre up into the top edge of some of those trees, but it wasn't that significant a shift that I left it in there. But you can just see it, just sort of trying to find these shapes from the photograph. Now I'm going to go back in and fill in the little holes that I've left here, you know, not wanting to wreck those marks that they go in, but at the same time, you know, get rid of. So I'm kind of pushing that paint back into it the way, sort of in reverse of the way it was coming out as a dark. But there's quite a bit of paint on there when I hit the, now this is the bush color, so it's Chrome Oxide Green and Yellow Ochre and Cad Yellow, Lemon and Deep. And a tiny touch of phthalo. Oh, and some orange too. You'll see that I put orange and red and the green just to, well, warm it up because it's a sunny day, and also to kill the intensity of the color. And again, I'm fashioning that top edge, so I probably don't have to really paint it again. It's not flat, simple shape. I mean, it's got the sense of the way a top of a bush would look. And I've got a lot of paint on here this time, and I'm turning the brush around as I go. You know, just to keep sort of pulling fresh paint. But I'm trying to get all the sunlit shape of that bush in. And then now I'm mixing up the shadow side. So I've got Dioxazine Purple and Chrome Oxide Green, Yellow Ochre. So I want a shadow for that bush, and I put a little bit of ultramarine in there. So it's dark enough to be the shadow, but it's not as dark as the trees.
I'll be continuing to repost a YouTube video each month, but going forward, I plan to share my ideas and particularly the direction of my new work with my email list. Only there, just one email a month. You can go here or go to ianroberts.com and you'll get this video free when you sign up.
So that's where the action will be going forward. And I do hope you'll join me. Okay, back to the demo.
See, it's not as dark as the trees. And so I'm just pushing those shapes for the main shadow shapes, and then later I'll come back with the sunlit side and pull it over the top, because you want to make sure the shadows feel like they're underneath the sunlit part. They're not sort of advancing, or at least next to the lit part. You want to make sure that it's tucked in underneath the lit part. So I'll go back with some lights on the top later and make sure that's happening. I'm not just going over everything, because that's going to be the bush that's down there beside the rock. Because some of these are going to have some real darks in there before next, I think. But I'm just trying to figure out the edge between all those bushes and the tall grasses. These are the real dark, so it's Alizarin and Phthalo Green and yellow ochre. These are the dark shadows where you don't get too many of them, just sort of right down deep inside the bush where there's no light at all. This would be too dark for the whole shadow, but for a couple of places that really dig down into the darks, then it works really well there. And just getting rid of some of the bits and pieces there that I got left behind. Now I'm going to paint the rock color. There's a big rock in front of that bush. So I'm trying this ultramarine and white and yellow ochre and cad orange or something. And I put in really, way too dark. So I add some white. Get a good mass of paint on there, and then just drag it. And see, that paint underneath is pretty thin, so it's not smearing in with the paint I'm putting in now. And I wanted to warm it up a bit, so I get some alizarin and Cad Red Light into it. And you see, I mean, I've painted over all my drawing now, so I'm just having to look at the photograph and put it in the right spot. Excuse me. So that's Dioxazine Purple and yellow ochre. And this is for the big, I think, as I remember it, the big mass of sort of warm, kind of those grasses up at the top, sort of these ochre purple grasses up at the top there. They're not that prominent in the photograph, but they're there, and it's something that I sort of figured I'd emphasize, because I really shift well, you'll see here, that's Quinacridone Magenta and yellow ochre, and then I really push that color right up there, because that's where I want us to go. That's my focal point, right up there. And then I think I just crank it another step of intensity and put it right there where I want us to go. But you can see I'm not really brushing it. I'm just sticking here and just closing up the edge of that shape. How they join together. And then here I've got some phthalo green, yellow ochre, some cad yellow, that I want to get a more intense green. You can see it in the photograph, not quite as clearly as I'm painting it in, but it's pretty intense green mass of some other kind of grasses right in this area here. And I want to create the variety. I mean, it's 2/3 of the painting, this foreground area of grasses. I want to create the variety there so it doesn't get boring. And then now I'm just taking a brush with no paint and just flicking that underpainting that I had before into that new color. And then I'm just breaking up that big orange mass. In order to, up at the top with just 1 or 2 touches of green so it doesn't get too intense. And then now I think I'm mixing the lit side of the bush again. It's a lighter, more sunlit, a more sunlit color. And I just want it to kind of have how it sort of hits the top of all the edges. So you can see I'm really trying to structure the form of the thing, right? There's the lit side and then sort of the not quite entirely lit side and then the shadow side and then the real dark. So I'm really trying to structure the form of what this thing looks like. I'll probably soften those edges a little later, but that's sort of the idea. So I've mixed a little thicker paint and more yellow ochre, and now I'm working on this gradation and I'm working on building up. So this goes on for a while now. I'm building up what's going to be all these tall grasses. And so it's all these light vertical strokes that just slowly start to build the structure and the sense of, oh, I see these are tall grasses here. And you'll see that, I spend quite a bit of time doing this on that early washed-in foundation. But you see, some of it I'm putting in paint, and some of it I'm just the weight of the brush sort of moving across it, kind of getting rid of edges and building up contrasts. But they're very subtle, you'll see as this goes on. So this, I think I'm just doing the same ultramarine and yellow ochre and just going a little darker. You can see in the photograph there's some places there that has some real darks in it, and so I'm just wanting to create that much variety and interaction going on there. So this is something that's going to kind of be the tops of these masses of tall grasses, and you'll see I'll just keep putting paint in for a while. See, this is pretty light, right? These aren't the flowers. These are still the grasses that I'm dealing with. And you'll see I'll just kind of blend them in as I go here. So I'm just kind of getting the tops of where I want. Those are the dark masses underneath, and then these are the tops of where the sunlight is hitting them. And then now I'm just sort of blending them in, just the weight of the brush. Still quite a bit of paint on there, but you'll see now I've got a bit of dark on there, and I'm just brushing very lightly and vertically to keep and getting rid of harsh edges, just keeping. There's no flowers in there yet, right? There's just this soft upward motion of just sort of getting these grasses. And you'll see when I put the flowers in, the thing will just sit as if there's all these tall masses of tall grasses that are playing that role that the flowers are embedded in. So I'm just taking these, so now I'm going to sort of a mid-value again to come back into some of those darks, soften the edges some more. And it's just the weight of the brush, just sort of feathering over there, softening these different edges. But you can see it's starting to build up like this sense of, whoa, look at all these tall grasses here. So this is a few little purple flowers way over. It's Dioxazine Purple and white, way over on they're actually there in the photograph, way over there on the far left-hand side. But I just kind of put them there just to kind of counterbalance that orange. I think this is a little bush there in the foreground. Just getting sort of a little bit more structure on that thing. And then you can see a couple of darks. I just had pretty much the color that's on my brush now. I flick those in, or maybe when I'm putting the shadow the last, just put them in. You'll see I'll kind of soften them out. But you'll see I'm just continuing to kind of get darks and lights, just sort of the weight of the brush, a little bit darker, a little lighter. Well, these are all darker. And then I'm going to put a few little touches. This is about a number 2 filbert. Most of it, that big scrubbing in was a number 8. Most of the rest of it's a number 4 filbert. This, I think, now is the white flowers. So it's chrome oxide green, but it's a long way from white. It doesn't sort of pop as these white blobs. I've got them at a color that interacts, but you'll see it. You see already how I've worked all those grasses, and now by putting these little shapes for the flowers, it's kind of, they're sitting on the top of all these tall grasses growing out of them. You'll see in a minute how it just the two of them just start to integrate and embed one another, building up this illusion of the flowers sitting on the tops of the tall grasses. So again, I didn't want to, once having done all that, I don't want to be messing. I'm just trying to hit it once and leave it. You know, hit it, leave it, hit it, leave it. Think about it. You know, it's like that thing about the carpenter, measure twice, cut once. For the most part, I'm really trying to think about where I'm putting these things before putting it down. You see, I'm looking back there. Where do I want it? And so you can see that those flowers are kind of sitting on the top of all these big, tall grasses. And now those grasses look, oh, I see what they're doing. So there's 1 or 2 places where I guess I got it a little, I just need to sort of soften some edges up in there. They're a little hard. And see, those things are a little hard. And the whole thing is kind of orchestrated to take us up to that top corner. Just one last piece there. And there's the finished painting. And there's a little bit of glare on the top left, on the sky and so on, but that's the finished painting. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Bye for now.
I do hope you found that was helpful. Do join me on my email list as I start to explore new ideas and directions artistically. My very best wishes to you all. Bye for now, and all the best.